So without further ado, I will now ask our presenters that have joined us today to give a quick introduction to themselves. So first of all, we will go to Nick Houlton, who's COO at APMG. So over to you, Nick.
Okay, so really nice to be with everybody again today to talk about Praxis. Praxis was kind of born as an idea a long time ago, and it's been fantastic to see its journey so far. So I'm super excited to be with everybody today and really looking forward to it, Mark.
Thank you, Nick. And next to Raj.
Thank you, Mark, and welcome everyone. I hope we take this opportunity today to, as Mark said, dig deeper into the Praxis framework. I've been training and mentoring program, project, and change managers for over 20 years. And I would like to share why I believe Praxis is the right way forward for you, your team, and of course, your organization. So thank you.
Thank you, Raj. And last but not least, Charlotte.
Thank you, Mark. Welcome, everybody. Super excited for today's webinar delivered by both Nick and Raj Khanna. Raj Khanna has a wealth of experience within the project and change management community. So very much looking forward to today's.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody, for a quick introduction. So I think we'll go to Nick next. Over to you.
Okay, thanks very much indeed, Mark. So I just wanted to spend a moment, Raj, before we jump in to talk about Praxis, actually to talk about you for a little while. So bring some, because you've been teaching projects and program management and portfolio management and change and so on for many years now. Just take us through some of the highlights. What makes you do it? You must be enjoying it. So what is it that kind of you really enjoy about helping colleagues learn about all of this kind of thing?
Yes, Nick, absolutely. I enjoy it. My career into this started just after I finished my training, and the trainer obviously saw something in me and said, Raj, would I like you to do a 2-day overview on project management? So it was to a large NHS, a National Health Service organization, and I did a 2-day overview. And I enjoyed it, and the group enjoyed it. Fortunately, as a result of that, they decided to run a second session. And I thought, okay, not a problem. I got a list of the attendees, and it had the chief executive, medical director, nursing director, finance director. And I thought, wow. I said to my wife, what do I do here? And she said, well, they're coming to listen to you. Enjoy. So I did day 1 on project management, and we talked about what good project looks like. And the chief executive said to me, actually, Raj, I think from what you've been saying, we sit on a program rather than a project. So can you tomorrow talk about program management? So I went home to the hotel, got the book out and prepared my slides and notes for the next day's session. And it went very well. And that's what we were doing, distinguishing between projects and program. Today, had I been talking about Praxis, I would not have had to give up my evening for 4 or 5 hours preparing material. So that's what really my introduction into this world.
Okay, fantastic. And it kind of reminds me as well at several levels, really. Firstly, there's nothing quite like, consulting in real life. You have to, help the client and work with the client and tailor things to their needs. There's that part. And there's that fantastic advice, from your wife kind of saying, you can do it, have that confidence, step up and show them, what you're made of, which is brilliant. So that's really great. So let's then have a look, if we can, and start thinking about today's situation. So tell me a little bit about this, because in my mind, everybody's kind of been struggling with a couple of years worth of high volatility. There's been great uncertainty, kind of out there. People have come over the health crisis, now into, a whole variety of different logistical problems. We've got supply chain issues going on. We've got uncertainty in the financial markets and this kind of stuff. that's on a global scale, but what are your clients? What kind of situations are your clients in? What are the things that are most concerning them when they start to think about project and program management training?
Well, first of all, because we've been distinguishing for so long this word called program management and project management training, the staff, when they come in and they join new to the organization, they may not be senior to start off with, and they're sent on this course called project management. And then when they sort of grow up a little bit, they're sent on a different course called program management. And so they feel constrained, the fact that they're not able to demonstrate their ability early on. And I can think about the example of Malala Yousafzai. If we'd had that same kind of attitude, she would not have won her Nobel Peace Prize at the age of 16. So that really is the first issue for me, Nick, that we need to stop distinguishing and encourage people to go on the same course working with this leaders. So the organization that I'm working with now, we'd have directors, chief constables working on the same course as some of the junior members. So that's one of the issues. The other one, of course, is when people do attend different courses, they start to learn different languages. And therefore, when they come back to their workplace, they're having to spend 10 minutes explaining what that word means. And because of those, as I said earlier, people are not working collectively as a team. We're sending different people onto different courses. And therefore, we're spending 10 days doing that.
Right. And that makes complete sense to me, because I think also there's a reluctance sometimes in an organization. Somebody goes on a foundation course and then the next year they want to go on, say, a practitioner course, or they want to, move forward. And the initial reaction of the manager is to kind of say, well, hang on a minute, didn't you learn Praxis last year, or didn't you learn project management last year? Look at something new. And that can, in a way, force them into looking at, a separate methodology rather than actually establishing their credentials in the first one. So that's a very, common kind of factor. Should we be sharing more about that journey towards, the more advanced levels of competency and capability, do you think?
Yeah, I do believe, because the people who have excellent experiences outside of their workplace, and therefore we should not pigeonhole them into saying you are only good at managing projects and that's where you go, or you're only good at managing programs. So if we start to work collectively and collaboratively and encourage all of our team to be going on a single integrated program project management course. And the other thing Praxis also covers is interpersonal skills and change management, which is the human side. So when I've spoken to people who've done the training in the last 3 years on the framework, they've all come back and said it's very, very rounded, and it tells me everything in one place as to what to do. And the other one, of course, is very important. We need to speak on the same language. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that does kind of make some sense to me, because it is quite fascinating how in these different methodologies you have pretty much the same thing, but described as a unique term in the project management world, a different unique term in the program management world, and yet another related but distinct term when considering it from a change management perspective. So all of those things are a bit of a nightmare then when you're trying to work across cultures and across boundaries and so on. Now, we actually spoke with one of your clients. We sent our roving reporter, in this case Charlotte Miller, on your behalf, to speak to a gentleman called Bill Renwick. And Charlotte set up some interviews, and she spent a bit of time with Bill, asking him a little bit about his background and asking him some more about his adoption of Praxis. So let's just listen to Charlotte and Bill, and particularly to Bill, to introduce himself.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role in your organisation, please?
Yes, I've been delivering projects now in safety critical industries for almost 40 years. Aerospace, automotive, software, and most recently healthcare. As you say, I'm currently a senior programme manager at Oxford University's hospitals. And I've learned from each new experience along the way, and I'm now old and gnarled with that experience.
I think that's something that we can all really relate to, isn't it? You know, you do get the kind of battle scars from delivering in a challenging environment. And I can't imagine a more complex organisation, actually, dedicated, but a more complex organisation than the UK National Health Service. So Raj, when did you meet Bill? How long ago did you meet him?
I've known Bill for about over 15 years. I trained him on project management all those years ago. I trained him on program management in the last sort of 7-8 years. And Bill came to me about 2 years ago and said, Raj, I've got a group of people who want to renew their PRINCE2 qualifications. I've got some new project managers, I want to train them. I've got some project managers who want to be trained on managing successful programs. So can we do, these courses? And that's when I introduced Bill to the Praxis Framework. And I explained to him the benefits of an integrated program project management qualification, which uses a common language. And instead of sending different people to different courses, why do we not do a single integrated course? And that's really how Bill and the organization then chose to go ahead with Praxis.
Yeah, absolutely. And we put the question that you can see on the screen. So for everybody watching, if you have questions like Bill had, and you're thinking of those now, go ahead, just type them into the chat, because we're going to have some time for Q&A in a little while. But the key question that we put to Bill was, when you were thinking about taking Praxis, what was that primary purpose? What was your main requirement, if you like, your key requirement to solve in learning and using Praxis?
The primary requirement, to be honest, was multidisciplinary team working. The anchor of that is P3 manager, as Praxis would refer to it, which took us in this direction. But the primary need was actually for multidisciplinary team working, where there's some extremely specialist people, not only in the project method world, but obviously technically and clinically as well in our environment.
Excellent. So, Raj, take us through then, because this seems to be a fairly common thing that people are finding between the different best practices, different language, different terms, different applications of those terms. Is this a common thing that you're finding as well?
It is. And if you look at, it's the simplest word that we all use in our vocabulary, called thank you. In Indian, we call it shukriya, dhanyavad. Our French colleagues call it merci beaucoup, and Germans call it Dankeschön. So if you get into a room and everyone's speaking a different language, it makes that environment very difficult. And so Praxis gives us this integrated approach, that it gives us a framework that we can all start to speak the same common language. Because for me, Nick, clarity is the precursor to success. And if we can all start to speak the same language, then yes, we will start to make a difference.
I think that's so important, particularly when we are working in a distributed way. Right now we're in different cities, we're talking to each other over, Microsoft Teams. We've got folks joining from all over the world, to listen and to share our thinking together today as colleagues. And this happens every day now, every hour of every day. We're working with different teams in different locations and even different time zones. So super important. Now, one other customer that we also spoke to, that Charlotte spoke to, is a gentleman called Rami Saadi. And Rami is from a very different industry. So let's hear Rami introduce himself.
Welcome, Rami. Would you like to give a short introduction of yourself?
My name is Rami Saadi. I am, as you said, the founder and CEO of Technical Methods Limited. We are specialized in construction, real estate development and investment.
Okay, and Rami, in his interview, he's in a very different kind of role. He's more in a C-suite leadership role, really, as the CEO. So with that leadership in mind, we were talking to him about, why is it then that you would, actually take on Praxis Framework? And this is his response.
I was planning to introduce a change in my business during the last 2 years, especially in COVID, to align the business with climate mission and a sustainable future for the business.
And that was really quite fascinating to me, because there's somebody who's working in construction. Construction continued during the pandemic, largely unhindered, not completely, but largely. And yet Rami was really kind of thinking forwards and thinking about, where does he take his business next? Where does he take his organization next? What are your thoughts on that one, Raj? And where do you think that Praxis can really, help Rami deliver against that challenge?
Well, as we see from here, modern challenges require modern solutions. So I introduced him to the Praxis Framework website and explained to him how Praxis can offer him a solution that can actually work. So you see the difference we have from the health sector to a construction sector. So I would now work with Charlotte and take you through some of the key aspects of the Praxis and how the framework provides us with the something that Rami was actually interested in. So Charlotte, if we can look at the Praxis Framework website, please.
Yeah, that would be really great, and it would be fantastic. So Charlotte, if you could come on screen, let's move on to that scene and take us through what excites Raj about the Praxis Framework website.
Well, first of all, as we know, a number of other providers, they charge up to £60 minimum for a copy of the text. Well, Praxis Framework, as you see on the website, is community driven. It is free, and you don't have to register to have access to the website. And that, as we'll see later on, is extremely helpful to the current world that we are. So we don't have to have textbooks printed, which, as soon as they are printed, they're out of date. So Praxis, first of all, anyone can contribute. So if you believe this can be enhanced and it could help you in making and delivering your change initiative better, then of course, we encourage you to write to Adrian Dooley and the team on how this could be improved. There are several areas of the Praxis website, as you can see from the screen. The first is the knowledge area. And the knowledge areas is a good guidance. For me, it's a nice little checklist. If I'm managing change initiatives, whether they're program or projects, what are the kind of things I need to consider? We need to consider the organization, we need to consider stakeholders, and most crucially, which several other frameworks don't cover, are the interpersonal skills. Then it has a section called the method section. And the method section then gives us some guidance on how to go through that change initiative. What do we do at the beginning? What do we do in the middle? And of course, anything needs to have a formal closure. So there is very, very clear guidance on that. Very importantly, the next section talks about the competencies. What are the competencies that are required for an individual working in a change initiative, in managing stakeholders, managing benefits, and look at some of those interpersonal skills. The fourth area is maturity. And that is really looking to see how mature our organization is in managing our change initiatives. And there are different scales. We talk about maturity level 1 is the starting point, taking us right to the optimum where we want to be as organizations, which is level 5. If you are wishing to see how mature your organization is, if you go to the option to register free, and we will see from there, you can register yourself and you have access to, again, free, the maturity level assessment of your organization. Within, of course, the final area is the library. And like any library, it's got a wealth of information. And here, if you feel you want to be looking at any areas you're unsure of, then please check. Within the library section, there is the section called blogs. And you'll see several industry experts. For example, Adrian himself, the author, and he's brought the team together to put this framework together. And you've got others, as you will see, surrounding him. If you feel, yes, you can contribute and write a blog or write an article or create a video, then again, we encourage that. And you will then see this website continuously updated. It's community driven, and we don't have to worry about the textbook. So if we are sat in a meeting and a new person comes in, what level they are, whether they're somebody new into project management or whether somebody that worked as project. So if Rami was working within Bill's industry or Bill within Rami's industry, they say, what should I need to consider? So we click on the knowledge area again, and you can actually see the whole list is there. Within that, in the meeting, the sponsor says, I need to know a little bit about stakeholders. So what do I need to know about stakeholders? If we go down to stakeholder management, and there is some guidance on stakeholder management. So it takes you through step by step. You identify, you assess your stakeholders, and throughout the framework, you have some hyperlinks. And when you're managing these areas, majority of organizations have a form of a portfolio management office, and they will have some templates. Within Praxis, if we go back to our library and we start to look at the templates, you've got a whole series of templates. You already have yours, but you think, you know what? I've heard about change management. I don't have a template. So you click on the change management and you can download the template, align it, adapt it to your organization. And Nick, all of this is free to our end users. We can't, complain. The other thing, of course, we're all used to searching with in a meeting somewhere. We don't have books. We all have laptops. We all have iPads. And somebody mentioned something. You think, I've heard somebody talking about Belbin. What is Belbin? So Praxis, like any professional, excellent website, provides your search engine. So you type in Belbin, your search, and you've got a whole series of information. And if we look at the first option on here about Belbin, you see the whole depth of knowledge about different types of people, whether you're a plant, whether you're a coordinator or a specialist. So a quick summary into the Praxis website, Nick, and also to say in summary, the colleagues who've looked at it, for example, Rami and Bill, have said there is no other framework in their experience that offers such extensive website, which is free, if I use the word today for the first time, we talk about healthcare professionals. Today, I'm going to talk about change care professionals. And of course, it's community driven. So thank you, Charlotte, for taking us through that demonstration.
Thank you, Raj.
Yeah, thank you. It's always tricky kind of trying to show things live, all right? And I found that really, really good because it kind of shows as well how easy it is to navigate on the site. You know, you kind of start thinking about the user interface and you're sort of thinking, you know, where would I find, you know, risks and issues? Where would I find templates? Where would I go, you know, to find this stuff? And it looks pretty powerful, pretty straightforward, very easy, you know, to kind of move around in that moment when you're in the meeting, you know, and you want to add some value. So Mark, I think we've been getting some questions from our audience. And I can see lots of folks are actually in the webinar. I can see a little list of people who are all actively listening to us. So if you are on the webinar and you want to ask a question, just type it into the chat and it'll come in and then we'll get it to Raj as quickly as possible. So Mark, should we take our first question?
Yeah, sure. So you should be able to see the first question on screen now, but I'll read it out anyway. I know Praxis has agility built into the framework, but can you explain to me a little more about how to interpret this?
Okay, so Raj, what are your thoughts on Praxis and agility?
Well, agility means flexibility. So as an organization, we need to have the agility to change as and when we have, or circumstances change. As you said, Nick, at the beginning, the world has changed, certainly in the last 3 years. And because the Praxis framework is community driven and with feedback from our expert panel, and anyone in this world is an expert, not just the pictures that you saw earlier. And as they give their suggestions, we will see that framework being agile and have the agility to, obviously move on with times rather than be rigid and have this printed book that takes 5 to 10 years to update.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think having spoken with Adrian, you know, his view about, you know, agility is it's a continuum and, you know, that you can find your, you know, comfort level, you know, of agility very well within Praxis Framework. And, you know, we rely on people throughout their professional careers to know how to adapt, you know, different methods to different circumstances and select the right level of pre-planning, the right level of flexibility and the right level of, you know, organizational agility as they deliver, you know, their project and their program. So great answer. Thank you very much indeed, Raj. Mark, should we take the next question?
Yep, so you should see the next question on screen, but again, I'll read it out for the benefit of everyone. Let me just see that. So the Praxis framework contains a lot of information. Is it possible to have a local customized copy of the website that would run as an internal resource in my company?
Okay, well, I'll jump in and answer this, if I may. It absolutely can do that. It is a service from APMG, so you do need to get in touch with us. But in essence, what we have agreed with the folks who own praxisframework.org is that you can indeed take a snapshot of that and use it as the basis for your in-house project and program portfolio capability, if you like, your own method, and extend it out to include the domain relevant information that you need. Perhaps you're in a regulated environment and you want to put some of that in, or some internal best practices that you use yourselves. Raj, do you see much call for this amongst your clients, you know, for people to be able to take a method and kind of make it their own?
Yeah, certainly do. I mean, I know Bill talked about it. They've trained a large number of people already. We're actually currently going through another course with Bill's colleagues, and they've created this community of practice, and they're now looking to see how Praxis Framework can help the organization to move forward. And they would certainly be looking at what the Praxis Framework looks like and creating their trust-wide approach to the similar level. And I'm sure they'll be talking to you in a bit more detail soon, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. We just had a comment from I think it was Helen in the chat actually about the website, being super comprehensive and so on. On one of the things that is on her wish list, I'm just kind of catching up with it a little bit now, is really about how best to interpret the framework. How do you go about applying it in real life, Raj? How do you bridge the classroom to the implementation, if you like? Could you expand on that for us?
Yeah, first of all, Helen, I agree. And like any good site, it's got a lot of information. A recent colleague who came, she said, Raj, I looked at the website before I came on the session, and I found it, quite extensive and quite full. So as we go through individually, like we've done today, take you through the different pages, and within the pages showing you what's available, then it becomes clearer. And like anything else, as it becomes clearer, you're able to adapt it better. The examples that I use in my real everyday sessions is about the home life. And if you're going to get a new kitchen put in, you will actually go through each of those options and actually decide whether it's relevant or not. So yes, it doesn't go into this concept that it makes it complicated. It is simple, and it can be applied to our projects in our daily life. Some things we're not sure of, like procurement. So at work, you may not do procurement, but in real life, if you're going to go and get a new kitchen, you will go through the procurement process and you will have a contract. So Praxis suggests you cover that. So yes, it can be adapted to everyday life, and that's not a problem at all.
Excellent. Thank you, Helen, for jumping in and expanding on that. It's a really, really good point to be made. Mark, should we take the next question?
Sure. So next question is, some of my team already have a PRINCE2 qualification. How will taking Praxis benefit them? Sorry, how will Praxis benefit them, and do they need to start from the bottom?
Okay, Raj, what are your thoughts on this kind of cross-training people who already have some exposure to project management?
Again, an excellent question. Thank you for raising this. I've been doing training on PRINCE2 for 20 years. As I said, that's where I started my career. I still provide PRINCE2 training. One of the things that Praxis has done when we talk about the word integrated is taken 3 or 4 different frameworks and put it all into one place. So anyone that's got a PRINCE2 qualification, it doesn't lose the meaning of PRINCE2. It still has the basic concepts. It even uses terminology what you're used to using, like work packages, business case, etc. there. So anyone that's coming to the end of their PRINCE2, for example, they've expired, or if they've got a PRINCE2 foundation in the past, one of the things I believe, and that to me is fantastic work within APMG International and with Adrian Dooley, is to recognize the past qualification. In which case, if you do have PRINCE2 or managing successful qualifications, or for example, PMP, you are exempt from Praxis Foundation, and you go straight to being a Praxis practitioner. And we've had several people who've done that, and it's worked very well. And it blends in with PRINCE2, and you don't lose your basic knowledge and understanding of PRINCE2.
Yeah. And I think that's so important because, people ultimately, if they've got a foundation already, that's exactly the problem that we were highlighting right at the beginning, that people feel constrained, that they've had this knowledge element, but they want to build on that now and, progress their career appropriately, at all levels. So fantastic. Thank you very much indeed, Raj. So Mark, let's take our next question if we may.
Thanks, guys. So next question. I like the idea of being able to use the website to continue my learning and for support. Is there a longer term pathway for professional development with Praxis?
All right. So Raj, this was something we were kind of signposting earlier, wasn't it? When we were saying, it might be quite good to sort of illustrate what does that journey, for people look like through their career. What are your thoughts on this?
This is really one of the latest development within the Praxis framework, which I believe is absolutely fantastic. I've been somebody who's been not just training people, I mentor project program managers, and I also set up organizations' portfolio management office. And when people had done their practitioner qualification, there wasn't this next path. How do I demonstrate to my employer and other employers that I do have the ability to manage projects? And so Praxis Professional is the next level up. And what Praxis Professional Award does is, having got your Praxis Practitioner exam, you then are asked to demonstrate, first of all, in an application form, against 20 competencies about stakeholder engagement, conflict management, etc., to an assessor. They will then assess you, and so there's like an interview going through a Viva. The first person who I mentored globally, Ricardo Santos, he said, Raj, it was like writing my thesis, which is fantastic. Gave him an opportunity to reflect on his career. He was assessed, interviewed, and he achieved his Praxis Professional Award. That route is now being recognized by the Association of Project Management in the UK, the APM, and you can then take up to the chartered status. So today, Praxis does give us a fantastic opportunity to take our career forward and demonstrate our ability to apply the method and the framework.
And I think that is so important. You know, we have now that elite, I'm going to say elite status. All right, it's the top of the food chain. It's that aspirational, and it's very important. You know, getting chartered status with the UK Association for Project Management, the APM, if you like, that founding group, you know, who are at the forefront of transforming professional project management from what it was to what it is today. Getting that chartered status for many people is the ultimate, you know, recognition of their service, their lifetime achievement in delivering complex and very challenging, you know, projects and programs. So I think it's very, very important to have that to aim at, you know, and we might not all get there. We might not all want to get there, but having that progression path available to you as a professional is very, very important indeed. Great questions, these. Keep them coming. By the way, audience, just type them into the chat and we'll get to as many as possible. Mark, let's move on. We'll take our next question, please.
So the next one is on a similar note to Ellie's question earlier. What are the levels of training and certification? I think we've covered that, but maybe worth iterating.
Yeah, so to Raj specifically, so let's say then that you know, we are trying to cover all of the bases. You know, we've got a limited budget to be able to spend. You know, we want to train as many people as possible. I think you may say it depends as your answer to this, but you know, what is the kind of ratio to this question? What is the ratio of practitioners to foundations? Is there a kind of a, you know, a yardstick that we should be using, an advised level of how many folks should take foundation and how many folks should take practitioner, or does it depend?
It depends, is the last bit that you said. I think, first of all, to make a point, if you are sending people on a project and program management courses separate, then an organization is investing 10 days to do that. However, going through the Praxis framework, they only need to do one course, which is integrated. So you've straight away cut down from 10 to a maximum of 5, depending on what their levels are. So we save money. The other important thing is, on the sessions that I've facilitated in the last 3 years, we've had, as I said, senior managers and juniors. So it's fantastic in team building. And it's a great opportunity for the senior leaders, not about learning, but listening to their colleagues, the junior members, and how things should happen. So it's a fantastic team building exercise. We've done several of those, and we've already got planned for the next 2. And going back to Ellie's question, of course, we've got the foundation level qualification, the practitioner, but most crucially, the Praxis professional. And I personally believe, having worked in this industry for over 20 years, the project management qualification should be seen as a qualification. I wouldn't employ a dentist who doesn't have a qualification. I wouldn't employ a lawyer who hasn't gone through the bar. So why today do I get people who are not project managers? And of course, chartered status is perfect, because it does show
Yeah.
And we have chartered engineers, so why not chartered project managers?
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. Let's move on. Time's getting to be against us, but we need to move quickly.
Yeah, I think this is the penultimate question. I do agree that the website is very extensive and the templates are comprehensive. I'd like access to sample documents, and in line with the current question, really how to interpret the framework. The question is, how is it actually applied in real life?
Okay, so I think that we may have talked on that one a little earlier from Helen as we picked it up kind of in the chat a bit more dynamically. So Helen, with your patience, will refer you back to the answer that we gave a little earlier, and let's move on and take the next question.
Okay, next one. Would those individuals who hold the APM PMQ qualification be treated the same as PRINCE2 holders in terms of not being required to sit the Praxis Foundation exam?
Raj?
Yes, yeah, it's the same as PRINCE2, and that's what I believe Praxis does very well. It recognizes people's past qualifications. So, it's absolutely acceptable for that as well. It's exempt.
Yeah, so there's nothing which is wasted here. It really does build. It recognizes, acknowledges, and accepts that people have prior learning. And then you can dovetail straight into it. And that's really where the value lies. And also, quite frankly, it's boring. Trying to learn things that you already know is really hard. It's really hard. So better to join in, at the moment where it's going to perhaps remind you of a few things, but also starts to stretch your brain towards those new qualifications. Let's move on.
Okay, the next should be the next question, but let's go with it anyway. So it's my manager will like we can train more of the team for our budget, but we still need a business case. Can you help me with this?
So this must be fairly common, Raj. I mean, people often have to petition, their managers or even the exec sponsor, to fund training in an organization. How can you help them, to create that kind of business case?
Well, our colleague Bill that spoke earlier, that's exactly what we did with Bill, because he was trying to get some qualification for the team. And as our service that we'll offer at the end of this session today, Nick, I'm absolutely happy to work with individuals to help them create what I did with Bill. And as I said, he's already had 60, 80 people in their organizations train on that framework and get, that funding through. And it's added value. So the feedback has been excellent. And they're now going to be, spreading that out to more of the clinical team, the doctors, the nurses, and the therapists. And that cannot be bad. So yes, absolutely happy to work with you. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks, Raj, because that's very helpful. And that often senior people are looking for some evidence, aren't they? And that evidence of what difference did it make and so on. And whether you're in a government organization, as we heard, earlier from Bill, or whether you're in a private company from Rami, it's super important to be able to leverage that. Next question then, Mark.
Okay, so I put that one on screen slightly earlier, but and the following question is very similar actually. So we'll start with this one. How is Praxis viewed in the industry? Seems job adverts ask for PRINCE2 or APM or some sort of Agile qualification. And then the follow-on to that is how is Praxis, how popular is Praxis outside of the UK?
Right. Okay. And thanks to both people actually for asking those questions. So I'm going to start us off here a little bit. And for some years, when I was traveling to different countries, there seems to be a lag in the industry, particularly in when you're recruiting people. Recruiters tend to recycle. They're the best recyclers on the planet, and they tend to reach out and recycle the same old, job descriptions and so on that they used to use some years ago. So I think there is a little bit of an echo of the past, all right, on some of the qualifications that people are looking for. Now, if you compare that with how e-recruitment happens today, all right, then actually the keywords and the text mining and the skills and competency mapping that goes on means that, quite frankly, the brand of what you take, PRINCE2, APM, PMP, whatever it happens to be, is less significant. Most e-recruitment engines now recognize digital qualifications, those digital certificates, those digital badges that are awarded by prestigious examination institutes such as ourselves. And it's that match between you, your electronic CV, your electronic credentials that an e-recruitment engine is going to map to first, with the brand secondary. So you may read the brand in the job advertisement, but you're not going to be held back at all by using Praxis as the vehicle through which to do it. And quite frankly, you're going to stand out from the crowd, because there are lots of folks who are out there competing for the best roles that you're going to be competing for, and you can really differentiate yourself by using an integrated method such as Praxis and getting ahead of that game. Raj, what's your experience? Because individual candidates, that must be a question that's on their mind.
It is, and it's certainly first of all, Praxis Framework has now been accepted by the Australian Institute of Project Managers as its book of knowledge. So it's getting recognition to the other side of the world. I've had colleagues who've come from Toronto who've said, I need a program management qualification. And Praxis was accepted as the qualification for them to get their consultancy job. So that's from Canada. India, we're starting to do some work. With my experience, Nick, it took PRINCE2 8 years to get recognition. Today, Praxis has been around 3 only. And I do believe that it covers, when it says integrated, if you look at the certificates, an integrated program and project management qualification. So yes, webinars like this are colleagues who are using it, who are not prescribing PRINCE2. They're saying, do you have an acceptable program or project management qualification? Is there? And really, Nick, APMG International themselves put a lot of effort in to make PRINCE2 where it is today. And already within 2-3 years, you've been able to put Praxis on the map. So more of these sessions, we hope, will encourage more of our colleagues to go down this route.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to thank everybody for the questions in the chat. Thank you, Mark, for helping us navigate through, all of that live commentary. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, so thank you very much. Now then, so look, there's a call to action here, isn't there really, Raj? Because we've heard from some folks about the situation that they're in, the kinds of challenges that they have. They're needing to do more with the budget that they have. They want to work on as a continuum. They want to be able to progress their career, without hindrance, without the encumbrance of learning 3 words to mean largely the same thing. So what's your offer then to the folks who have joined us today?
I've seen a couple of questions since that we saw on the chat, and also the comment I was at earlier is, please, I'm happy to work with you on a one-to-one basis to offer you consultancy to put your business case together as to why do Praxis Framework as opposed to the others. Somebody's also said, would it be possible to do a one-day overview of Praxis? Well, I don't need to do a separate one-day overview on project management and a separate one-day overview for program management. We can create a one-day overview of the Praxis Framework. I'm already working with, as I said, Bill's colleagues, a city council, a county council, and a police authority, where we are doing those one-day sessions and work with you. So I've given them the whole list of the Praxis knowledge areas, and I've said, which of those do you believe are more important to you? So please, after this session, send me an email on the email address ark@arcana.co.uk, and we can set up those sessions. Plus, I can offer you a webinar, what we're doing today for your organization. I have one planned this afternoon. So, give me a call, invite your colleagues, and we'll do a similar question-answer session. So rather than me talking, we will then be answering your questions. Is that okay? So that's my offer, Nick.
And I think that's perfect. All right, it fits the mood, it fits the audience that we've been talking to today, and it's something which I think is going to add a lot of value. And then you can discuss your professional career and that of your team in an appropriate environment. So that's fantastic. So thank you, Raj, for making that offer. And by the way, guys, it is limited. Okay, we can't do this all the time. So I would grab him while you can. All right, get in his diary. Just drop him an email now. All right, and say, hi, Raj. Let's set up a time. That's all that you need to do. It's a single line email. All right, really, really simple. RK arcana.co.uk, and you can see it all on the screen there. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Adine. And thank you for your generosity, Raj, because I think that's going to help an awful lot of people and allow them to map their needs into how Praxis can solve them as a solution. Very good. Well, let's bring back our panel then. It's been a really fascinating hour. It goes past so quickly. When we're doing this kind of thing. And Mark, I'll hand back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. I think what we'll do just before we wrap up is just ask for some final thoughts from the panel. So we'll go from my view right to left. So we'll start with Charlotte. Final thoughts, Charlotte.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Raj. Super. I mean, I've been working with you for a very long time, but I've learned so much again today from you and your wealth of experience with the vast array of people that you deliver training to and the organizations that have benefited from this. I think it'd be such a valuable one-to-one consultation for anybody to take up. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you, Charlotte. And Raj, to you next.
Well, I'd like to first of all thank Adrian Dooley and the team and APMG International for creating this framework. It's been my passion for the last several years as to why do we distinguish between programs and projects. I have done that, as I said in the past. I've created workbooks, a project workbook, a program workbook. And today we have this framework that has actually put everything together. So for me, this framework, although I do less training days in the year, instead of doing 2 courses or 3 courses, I'm only now doing 1. So from my point of view, it's actually taking less money. But what I believe the Praxis framework has been created, it offers excellent value to our colleagues that have joined us, to their teams, and most crucially to the organizations in managing those change initiatives better. So thank you, Adrian and APMG, for giving us this opportunity.
Thank you, Raj. And finally to you, Nick, final thoughts.
Yeah, I echo that. Right from the very beginning, Adrian and the extended team behind the Praxis framework have built value into every page, into every pixel, actually, on the website, and it kind of comes out all of the time. So it's a joy, really, to talk about that. And thank you, Raj, for the work that you do to champion it in the real world. Thank you so much to our guests who volunteered. I have to say, very, very willingly to be interviewed as well. And Charlotte, thank you for doing the demonstration and the interviews online, and to the whole production team, behind all of this, because there's a lot of work that goes into these. And thank you very much, Mark, for hosting and doing such a brilliant job to bring all of this together. We really appreciate it. With Bronwyn, who's also behind the scenes, been doing a lot of work to raise awareness and generate the interest and engage with our audience who are on the journey towards securing that Praxis qualification. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Nick. I just wanted to sneak in one really quick additional question, because it's a good one, and it's a couple of people who have raised the same thing. So just asking if there's a user group for Praxis. Now, is that best through the LinkedIn Praxis Framework group? Is that the best option?
Yeah, I would suggest so, Mark. Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, you can connect with any of us on LinkedIn. All right. So if you're in any doubt, you want to connect with us, you can do that. Just drop Raj an email. His email is going to come up next, and he will guide you through all of that. There are user groups, there are ways to contribute on the website and so on. But right now, that first thing to do, that first step to take, is email Raj Khanna at Raj Khanna Associates, and he will take you hand in hand on that journey.
Yeah, Absolutely.
Great, thank you, Nick. So that brings us to a close, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you to all the panel. Thank you to everyone that's contributed. Thank you for the questions and the engagement. It's been a really enjoyable session. So thanks again, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your week. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mark.